So when you start to think about selling your business, you think about the buyer, the financials, inventory, legal documents, but what about your employees? Chances are many have been with you for years, and they've seen it all, the good and the bad. You've built relationships along the way, you've even watched their kids grow up. You've helped them through health issues, maybe financial issues, personal issues. You've shared a lot of laughs and maybe even a few tears. And now you're thinking about selling the business. So just how and when do you let them know you're thinking about selling? In this video, we're going to cover 3 different options you should consider. And when we're finished, you'll have a much better understanding of the things that you should consider when it comes time to tell your employees you're selling the business. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Jeff Baxter with Midstreet Mergers and Acquisitions. We've helped hundreds of owners sell their businesses, and we'd like to share a few of the things we've learned along the way. In some ways, selling your business can seem like just another business transaction. You want the best price, the best terms, you want to minimize taxes, and you're even prepared to go through the due diligence process. But as you go through and get closer to actually selling, you'll come to realize there are some very personal and perhaps even emotional decisions that you should be prepared for. One of these is telling your employees you've decided to sell. Now, it's important to remember every business is unique, the relationships you share with your employees are unique, and exactly when and how you decide to tell your employees is a decision only you can make. So with that, let's go through a few options. First, we'll discuss telling your employees right up front, before you even get started, or very early in the process. Next, we'll discuss waiting until right before or immediately following closing. Then we'll finish up with the option we see most often used, and that's telling a few key employees early in the process and then waiting until right before or after closing to let the remaining staff know. So, why not just let everyone know right up front? Well, the truth is, unless you have a very unusual situation, it can be extremely risky for a number of reasons. First, there's no guarantee your business is going to sell right away. And even if things do go well, it's still going to take at least 4 or 5 months or more. So getting to the closing table just doesn't happen quickly. So let's just imagine for a second. You're an employee. The owner comes to you and they let you know that they're thinking of selling the business. And this is before they even get started, right? At this point, you have no idea who the new owner will be. You don't know when or even if the sale will happen. You're gonna have questions. Questions like, when the new owner comes in, what will they be like? Are they going to be a jerk? What's going to change? What are my roles and responsibilities going to be? Are they gonna be the same? What if they come in, they fire everybody, bring in their own people? Will I even have a job? Now, I know that sounds irrational, but as irrational as that may sound, the fear of the unknown can kick in, and their imagination can just run wild. So what if they decide that it's best to just go ahead and freshen up their resume? It's not unreasonable to think you may lose an employee or two along the way. Then there's the rumor mill. One of your employees mentions something to a distributor who happens to mention it to one of your competitors, who happens to mention it to a primary customer or even a potential customer. You get the point. It could lead to a lot of problems. A decline in revenue, distributors reducing or eliminating terms, the loss of a key employee. It could have a devastating effect on the value of your business, or even the ability to sell your business at all. Remember, a buyer doesn't like risk. They want stability. Steadily increasing revenues, steadily increasing profits, and a long-term staff that wants to stay and help grow the business. If they see the loss of a major account or a couple of key employees, it will have an impact on the price you're going to see. Now, with all that said, we have had business owners make it work. And in the right circumstances, it can provide some real benefits. But I would certainly caution against this approach unless you have a very special situation where you feel like you could pull it off. So if letting the entire staff know up front isn't the answer, what about waiting until after closing? This is a more commonly used strategy, but it does also have its limitations. First, some owners feel like they're being dishonest. And we've heard business owners say things like, "My employees really trust me. If I don't tell them, I feel like I was being deceitful." And that makes a lot of sense. The next thing to consider, keeping a secret for several months is not easy. And there will be plenty of things that you'll have to navigate along the way. Out of office meetings, buyers wanting to tour your facility, or even a confidential email popping up on your computer at just the wrong time. But the biggest challenge, due diligence. Due diligence is going to require a lot of your attention. A lot of reports, a lot of questions, and someone has to really be focused on it. If you're busy running the business and trying to handle due diligence at the same time, it's going to be overwhelming. And if your manager or bookkeeper doesn't know that you're selling, but you keep asking for report after report after report, they're probably going to assume something is going on. So, when do we see this option being used? It's generally effective for business up to about maybe $3 to $5 million in revenue. Businesses where maybe it's a husband and wife team, or maybe a couple of partners. Usually one of the owners is keeping the books and can pull all of the reports necessary. Once your business reaches a certain size, this is much harder to pull off because your staff is just much more involved. So while there are challenges, we've seen this option work well on many occasions. So we've talked about letting everyone know right away, and then we talked about waiting until after closing. Now let's touch on the third option. Tell a few key employees up front, and then wait until after closing to tell the rest of the staff. And this is the most commonly used approach, especially if your business is over that $3 to $5 million in revenue range. Why? Well, first, you'll have some help with due diligence. Buyers and their lenders and attorneys will be requesting a lot of information. And if your bookkeeper or manager is able to assist, it's a big benefit. Second, even though it may seem like a risk to confidentiality, having a couple of key employees on board early in the process can actually help prevent rumors. It allows you to stay more focused on running the business, and you'll have help pulling together information and coordinating meetings. Information requests will be turned around faster, helping maintain the buyer's trust and keeping the deal moving forward towards closing. Next, by staying focused on running the business, you will help prevent a drop in revenue along the way. And you don't want to give the buyer or their lender any reason to reconsider the terms of the deal. And finally, if you have key employees of your staff that will remain with the company after it has sold, the buyer is probably going to ask to speak with them prior to closing. Now you're probably thinking, yeah, that's a big risk. And it can be. But it's important to remember, your employees are a big part of what the buyer is actually buying. They're going to need your employees even more than you do. So their worst fear is they're going to acquire your business, have several employees leave the day after you take over. And if that were to happen, the knowledge, experience, relationships, they'd all be walking out the door with them. So I'm not saying you have to allow access, but it's important to remember, while you have risk in allowing the buyer to speak with your employees, the buyer has risk in not being able to speak with them. So just keep that in mind. In fact, some buyers won't even move forward without being able to speak with your employees. So it's certainly cause for concern, but there are a few best practices that can make it easier. You may want to consider a stay bonus or an employment agreement or both. A stay bonus is just like it sounds. You can use it as an incentive to get the employee to stay until the business is sold, or it can be used to entice the employee to stay on with the business after it has sold, and usually for a year. The stay bonus can be paid by either the buyer or the seller, and it's a part of the negotiations. And if a stay bonus is used to retain the employee after closing, the buyer will most likely want an employment agreement as well. The employment agreement is negotiated between your employee and the buyer, and that happens prior to closing. And when they negotiate that, that also lasts for at least the first year. After the first year, if the buyer and the employee still like each other, they can choose to extend the agreement. Things like offering a stay bonus or negotiating an employment agreement can go a long way towards making sure you and the buyer are both comfortable. We have plenty of additional information in the Learning Center about stay bonuses, employment agreements, and other options. So take some time to educate yourself up front. It's definitely worth it. So there you have it. 3 different options on when to tell employees you're selling the business. Deciding when and how to tell your employees is sure to be on the top of your mind as you get closer to closing. Just remember, it's a very personal decision that only you can make. Your business is unique, and the relationships that you share with your employees are unique. Work with your business broker, M&A advisor, or investment banker, and be sure to lay out a plan up front. But in the end, you're going to have to trust your gut. Only you know what's truly right for you and your business. If you have any questions about what we've covered, reach out and let us know. Or if you want more great information or content about selling your business, visit the Learning Center on our website. There are a lot of blogs and videos just like this. And thanks for watching.